If you're ready to begin your landscape construction journey, the first thing you want to do is establish a realistic budget for your project. And I'm talking a realistic budget, not just a budget, not some numbers that you want the project to cost, but numbers that we're actually seeing today in installation costs by licensed landscape contractors. So one way to establish your realistic landscape renovation budget is to use your home's current value. 10 to 20% of your home's current value will give you a healthy budget for your landscape renovation project. And you can find out your home's value by using real estate websites or comparables in your neighborhood. So finding a house that's close to yours, that's similar specs as your house, and seeing how much that sold for and using that. And if you're anything like me, you're already obsessively checking your home value, so you already know this. Now, if you live in a really dense urban environment with super high home values and small garden square footages, using a 10 to 20% of your home value as a guide for your landscape budget might give you a really, really inflated number. So say, for example, you live in an Oakland neighborhood and your home is in the $2 million value range, and your landscape project is about 1,000 square feet because your garden is pretty small, as a lot of these urban neighborhoods are, you're going to end up with a $200,000 to $400,000 amount for your landscape renovation, which is a lot more than what we're seeing for those smaller projects. So if you live in areas like that, like San Francisco Bay Area in general, unless you're living sort of on the outskirts in the suburbs, places with larger garden square footages that are in the more 4,000 square foot range, you're going to want to use a cost per square foot rather than that 10 to 20% number. So as of 2022, 2023, we're seeing landscape construction numbers between $45 a square foot and $85 a square foot. So this will give you a pretty healthy number to embark on your landscape renovation. You might be asking, why are the numbers so broad? 10% to 20% is a really big jump. $45 to $85, I mean, that could be the difference between a $45,000 project and a $90,000 project. The reason for this is because material costs vary across the spectrum. And the number of built elements your project's going to end up with. So if you're considering doing a project that's more on the planting side, maybe irrigation, landscape, what we call softscape, that will be in the $45 a square foot range. However, if you're doing more of a full landscape renovation, you're doing lots of paved areas, you're doing built elements, decking, trellises, fencing, that's going to put you on that higher end. And also, additionally, if you live in a difficult site, so if you live in a site that has access issues or that's severely sloped, you're just going to need these elements that will increase the cost of your project. Once you get further along in the process, you're working with your landscape designer, working with your landscape contractor, they can really help you refine some of those numbers, get them down to a realistic built budget. But this process that we're talking about right now is just so that you can get the ball rolling. You're not looking for exact numbers here. This is just so you have an idea, so that when you enter this process, you're not completely shocked by the numbers that you're seeing when you get estimates back from landscape contractors. Recently, I had a client ask, how do people pay for their landscape renovation projects? And this is information that's not often shared with us as designers from our clients. I have heard homeowners mention selling stocks. I've heard them talk about using savings and other forms of cash. Now, from what I'm aware, the landscape contractors I have worked with do not provide financing. Some landscape contractors or contractors in general might, but just not the ones I've worked with. And not to try and give anyone financial advice, but there are certain loans that you can look into, such as a personal loan, a FHA construction loan, and a home equity loan. You could also look into phasing the work. So this would be something you would really want to consult with your landscape contractor and your landscape designer on. But you can, once you have your design and once you know what everything's going to cost, look at breaking the work up into phases. So that would mean, identifying what makes the most sense to complete in phase one, what that cost would be, completing that work, and then at a later date, the contractor coming back and completing a second or a third phase. The major drawbacks to this being that material costs always go up, construction costs in general always go up. So when you're breaking work up into phases, you will be paying more in those individual phases by the time everything's completed, rather than if you had done it all at once. I do hope these tips have helped you establish a more realistic budget number for your landscape renovation project and have not dissuaded you from pursuing that project outright. Now, just remember that once you look into working with a landscape contractor or a landscape designer, they can help you refine these numbers further based on the actual design you end up going with. And if you want to keep moving forward on this journey, check out the next video, which talks about who to call first, a landscape designer or a landscape contractor.